Welcome along to OnBoard by WFR TV. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, your host, taking you through what's been going on behind the scenes here at the second round of the BNL Karting Series season for 2026. We're on the path to the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals at the Cartódromo Internacional do Algarve in Portimão in Portugal, which now has a revised new date, 7th to the 14th of November. Something to do with MotoGP getting in the way, apparently. But nevertheless, we are here at this wonderful circuit, located about 25 minutes from the French border. And more to the point, this round, where we have 2 race days in one weekend, will bring us to the halfway point of the season. And as you can see, there's some smoke in the air. They're prepping the barbecue for here tonight at the circuit later on today. But it's time to take you through what happened here at Mariembourg for round 2 of 2026.
Great F1 drivers, including Max Verstappen, Michael Schumacher, Antonio Liuzzi, Kimi Räikkönen, and a whole host of others to boot, have visited this fantastic circuit, located in the French-speaking Corral region of Belgium. It runs in a clockwise direction and has a total distance per lap of 1,366 metres, the second longest on our calendar. The 3 sectors of the track itself combined a beautiful spread of both speed, overtaking opportunity, and technicality, with 14 corners to boot. And with a combined best part of 25 drivers comprising of Mini Rookie and Mini Max, there would be close pack racing all week long. SB Motorsports' Ryan Rampadarath, making his return to the series in the 130 entry, would take pole position on Saturday. The first race got underway with the pre-final taking place under wonderful Saturday Belgian sunshine here in Mariembourg, with a great 3-way scrap between the likes of points leader Josh Cook, Osterman, and eventual race winner on this particular occasion, Dayan Habits from Dams Racing in the 131. Then the action would get further underway later on, as there was a little bit of hip checks and shoulders at the same time, but still the top 3. But a big moment here for the 124 of Arthur Farrow, who would end up going into the barriers. Meantime, Josh Cook would streak his way to the front of the field and eventually take the win on the road ahead of Austin Amman and Dayan Habits, rounding out the top 3. And still, the action would continue plentifully for the Mini-Max drivers and the Mini-Rookies. The great duel showcasing the skills of both Austin Amman from Sam Pollitt Racing and KR Sports' Josh Cook, tussling, exchanging the lead whenever they got the opportunity, with a great dive by Cook through into Chemin de Fer at turn 6. Austin Amman was definitely not going to take things lightly, as he too wanted to get the best of the 175, as Austin Amman would take the checkered ahead of Cook.
Alongside me, as the boys are definitely in full swing at the back of the tent here at Strawberry Racing, Paul Spencer. Paul, as always, a pleasure to see you, mate.
Thank you.
Strawberry, a big powerhouse within European Rotax and also British Championships and further afield. How is it to be here in the BNL once again? Because you guys always have a lot of great drivers on your roster.
No, it's good, and the BNL make a big effort, and we like to support that. It's close, Belgium, good tracks in Belgium. The weather's nice this weekend, so everything's really good.
I think the Instagram sensation that is Zane Safoglu underneath your awning as well, who's just turning 7, and he's absolutely rapid. Like, I couldn't believe it. A kid that's doing donuts in a Rolls-Royce Spectra, and he's here running around with the big boys in the mini class.
No, it's true. We was talking about it just now. We literally was just talking about it, and he was 7 this month, and his father was asking me, we were speaking about it, and I can't say enough. I'm blown away with the speed and the control and just all of it. He's going to be a big star in the future. We all know that. Everyone sees that, and he's going to be a big star. And I just want him to go and do what he's going to do in Europe. And I can't wait for he's a little bit older so we can get racing for the championships.
Pole position on Sunday this time would return to the hands of the points leader, Josh Cook, for KR Sport in the 175. Once again, beautiful weather here in Mariembourg, as Josh Cook would lead a 1-2 as teammate in the 152 Maria Roberto would initially keep a hold of second position, but she was embroiled in a multi-kart brawl. Some touching here or there, once between Arthur Ferrer and Charlie Page. But once again, it was those drivers from Sam Pollitt Racing, including Teddy Murphy, that were trying to do their best to usurp Josh Cook, but the 175 once again showed why he is the class of the field here in 2026. But it was Cook versus Oman on the front row as the lights went out once again here in Mini and Mini Rookie. You could even see the likes of August Slickervold from Denmark for Dams Racing trying to get his 2 cents in. But once more, Josh Cook ruled the roost in the purple, white and pink of KR Sport. More racing ensued, with the qualifying heats and the pre-final out of the way, and Josh Cook would lead an absolute cavalcade of Minimax drivers and Mini Rookie drivers across the line, and he would definitely find out that it was not going to be an easy one to keep running for the race lead. Austin Amar was trying to do his best once again to better the 175 as the two Brits would go into battle, and then all of a sudden Diane Habits decided to come into the fray. Great outside overtake by Austin Amar, but Josh Cook would hold his nerve and remain at the front end of the field. But Josh Cook would lead a drag race to the line, and once again the 175 from KR Sport would emerge victorious. Arthur Bowers would take top honours in Mini Rookie ahead of Henry Meyer, with Jayan Prakash rounding out the top 3. Cook, Townsend and Oman made it an all-British top 3 at the end of the top 10 following the standings. Bowers would be the winner of the event ahead of Moyert and Prakash, rounding out your top 3 in Mini Rookie. Josh Cook, Ray and Townsend, and the somewhat absent Austin Amon, who had to go home early to catch a flight, would round out the top 3 in the Minimax division. With a slightly bigger grid, despite the only 2 drivers in DD2 Masters being with us, it would see that Yannick Jacobs, Len Nyes, Theo Lang and a few other usual suspects would definitely showcase their skills here on Saturday. Pole position this time around would go to the Netherlands' Jort van Wyk from SP Motorsport in the 433, one of the title contenders this year. Van Wyk would lead the way from pole position as everyone would flood into turns 1 and 2. Some great dueling and dicing, with Nicolas Guillaume being hunted down by DD2 Masters Championship leader Jim Ringelberg, but Jort van Wyk would take the win in the qualifying heats on Saturday. But it was a 1-2 for SP Motorsport as Pep and Reitman trying to go around the outside of the 433. This move here from Len Nye showcased that he can overtake on the exit part of Escargot. Another man on the move was Ralph van der Pavert, but he would stumble. Len Noyes, however, would win the pre-final. The final got underway and everyone had their elbows out, including GKS's Nicolas Guillaume. Ralph van der Pavert in the 468 would make some moves here or there and try and get his way up the order. But then this move from Len Noyes caught Jort van Wyk unawares, with the former getting a 10-second post-race penalty despite having crossed the line first. However, it would not be Len Noyes. Ralph van der Pavert for SP Motorsport in the 468 would take his first win of the season.
Now, Mr. Nico Guillaume, firstly, good to see you. Glad to have you back in the paddock, mate. Now, a little bit of information. This man started karting 2023, wasn't it?
2023, yeah.
You've been a Belgian Max Challenge champion.
Yes.
You've finished runner-up in the BNL a couple of times.
Yeah.
But this man is not just racing in the BNL this year. News came out, and we discussed it earlier on this weekend, that you're going to be partnering in a former BNL alumni. Frederick Sebis, and you're going to be running in ADAC GT4 Germany. Firstly, what the devil possessed you and that crazy Dane to get together as teammates at W&S Motorsport?
Well, basically, Frederick already for a while he's been saying like he wants to do the cars, and since I've always been friends with him, he asked me if I wanted to drive as well.
Yeah.
And then like from one thing came another, and then we started sharing the car, and it's been very fun. So
to, of all places, Mariembourg, to get your backside back in a DD2 kart.
Well, for sure, the driving aspect is super different, and you have to, like with a car, you have to be so clean and so proper, and like you cannot do any mistakes completely. And with a kart, I think it's not maybe easier, but for sure, like the physical aspect of the kart is a lot more physical to drive the kart. But it's not. I don't say if you're good in karting that you're good in a car. It's very different. Like Frederick, maybe sometimes he was not super fast in the karting, but now in the cars he's always been like really fast. So like. It doesn't really mean that you're fast in one, that you're slow in the other. But it's very different. So
pulling more forces, G-forces going through corners.
That's true, for sure. That's why I want to keep on karting, because it just keeps me fit. And for sure I cannot just stop, because I like it so much. So I like the racing, I like everything about it. So I cannot really stop just like now. I cannot. And there's also not so many races in a car, so it's always fun to drive the karting. So.
Position on Sunday would go to Ralph van der Paver, the other man from SP Motorsport that has been one to watch this weekend. First of all, the heat got underway with Len Nyes going right round the outside of Ralph van der Paver, trying to get the race lead, but then Jort van Wyk would definitely filter his way back to the front end of the field. Len Nyes again using the exit point of Escargot, this time nice and cleanly, but Jort van Wyk was not willing to stay behind for second position. It would be Jort van Wyk that would lead a 1-2 across the line for SP Motorsport, ahead of teammate Van der Pavert. Then the pre-final took place, and then Ralph van der Pavert straight away struck whilst the iron was hot and got into the race lead, ahead of Jort van Wyk, who would then, a few laps later, retake the race lead. And then we would see Len Nyes once again showcase that he was not here to mess around. Dylan Wany would also get some moves up the order, but it would be Jort van Wyk that would win the race. Next up, the last race of the weekend, and the final would see Len Nyes once again head to the outside, this time getting through on Jort van Wyk. Nicolas Guillaume having to fight tooth and nail with the elbows clearly out, alongside people such as Pepin Riedman and also Ralph van der Pavert. The Masters battle was very close, but Len Nyes would win the final on Sunday. So Jim Ringelberg would take top honours once again for the second round in a row, ahead of the defending champion Christophe Capitan. Ralph van der Pavert was his first time as a weekend winner here in the BNL in the DD2 class. Ringelberg continues to lead the series, heading into our next round with Christophe Capitan rounding out the second step of the podium, as Ralph van der Pavert would take the top step, this time ahead of Nyes and Pepin Riedman, who would round out the top three. A big contingent of young superstars of the future would make up the Junior Max grid here at Mariembourg for the second round out of 4 here for this weekend. Pole position on Saturday would go to the points leader, Sam Pollitt Racing's Kian Bernard, whose qualifying seems to be ace right about now. He would lead the field into the qualifying heats, as everyone would get their elbows out very quickly indeed, but a multi-card incident would occur through into turn number 1. Finley Lines from KR Sport in the 281 would get through the 267 of Strawberry Racing's Kai Clark. Riley Morrow, the Pintside wonder from Sam Pollitt Racing, would definitely be in the mix, as with his teammate Kian Bernard, who would eventually take the race lead. But as the checkered flag flew, it was another victory for Kian Bernard for Sam Pollitt Racing, in the qualifying heats. The pre-final would get underway and Clark and Bernard would once again be at loggerheads. Some great performances for the likes of Justin Fogg, but Cian Bernard would make it 2 for 2 on Saturday as the final got underway with Finlay Lines close to the outside of Bernard through the approach into turn 1. But dramas for Albie Friend, who got caught out and then got collected. Lines would again showcase his prowess, but Riley Morrow decided, well, just to go to show that everything is not the tallest on the grid, and he would definitely factor in as it was a 3-way scrap. Became a 4-way scrap with Kai Clark closing in, who would eventually get through on Lines for P3. Bernard once again would rule the roost here in juniors, taking the win in the final on Saturday.
Right, well, I've got two of the boys from KR Sport alongside me. Denmark's Finn Albert Jorgensen and Gresiv to Switzerland's Luan Seidel. Firstly, Luan, third in the championship coming into this round of the season. Juniors has been quite competitive this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite competitive. It was really hard the first race in Ostrikut.
Yeah.
And yeah, now we had not that bad start into the first day, and I hope it goes better tomorrow.
Right, so we're now going to go to the man that finished runner-up in this year's RMC Viking Trophy just 2 weeks ago on home soil at Voyens. Your pace over the last few months, Finn, it's really going up, having joined the juniors from Minimax last year.
Yeah, it's keep training and then I can keep getting better, and now when we're here in BNL, I'm learning stuff that I can use in Denmark.
Kai Clark would take pole position for Strawberry Racing on Sunday in the Junior Max division as the battle lines were drawn for racing on Sunday. And it would be a very, very close affair with multiple drivers in the mix, including Valdis Pascu, Luan Seidel. Cian Bernard once again would have to fight his way tooth and nail towards the sharp end of the field. Albert Friend, man from Dan Holland Racing, not having the best of luck here in Mariembourg, but it would be Kai Clark that would win ahead of Finlay Lines. Cian Bernard edging out two other competitors, including Luan Seidel and Albert Friend, for the top three. Once again, the green lights would set us on our way, and Finlay Lines would be hung out to dry on the start of the pre-final. But again, it just showcased that drivers were very close indeed, as Cian Bernard had a little bit of a touch with Riley Morrow, his teammate from Sam Pollock Racing, which meant the 282 would collect the right rear tyre onto the outskirts of the tyre barrier through turn 3. Finlay Lines, however, decided, you know what, here's my time to shine, as Riley Morrow was definitely getting the elbows out with Kai Clark. And then Luan Seidel, the man from Switzerland, would make his mark as well, but Morrow would win the pre-final on Sunday. The final got underway and a barrage of junior Rotax drivers hurtled their way into T1, with Clyde Clark taking the initial advantage. We would have a couple of yellow flags a little bit earlier on in the race, but then this moment here saw Clark and Morrow eliminated for competing for the race win. However, it would be between Louis Radcliffe and Cian Bernard for the victory. However, Albie Friend decided to put himself piggy in the middle. Finlay Lines rounding out the top three. Albert Friend would take the win after a post-race penalty for Cian Bernard. What a show from the juniors this time around, as Bernard, Lines and Radcliffe would round out the top three drivers overall in the top 10, with Finn Albert Jorgensen completing the top 4, followed by Switzerland's Luan Seidel. Bernard, Lines and Radcliffe would complete the overall top 3 podium for the event itself. Once again, with the senior drivers, a who's who of those really competing not just around continental Europe but further afield, would be looking to make their mark here at this fantastic circuit. Pole position would go the way of Bouvin Power's Vince van der Halle, a rookie who is really punching above his weight this year. In the heat itself, there were times that there were a few contretemps here or there, but van der Halle struck first in the first heat of the weekend. The pre-final would get underway with an all Bouvin Power front row. We would see the likes of van der Weyken and a few others really stepping up their game. But at the end of the race, it was the 372 of Vince van der Halle that would take the win on this particular occasion. The final would get underway with an all Bouvin Power front row as van der Halle led van der Weyken with Bishop closely in proximity. The defending BNL and Grand Finals champion would firmly be in the mix, but then contact here between the 372 of van der Halle and the 369 of Thijs van Wijk would definitely set things ablaze. Tino Sidler would get through on one of his KR Sport teammates earlier on in the race, but Macaulay Bishop would win the final on Saturday.
Alongside with me from the Senior Rotax division, this man is not only a 4-time British champion, he's the reigning and defending BNL Karting Series Senior Rotax champion and the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals champion, who's already qualified for Portimao this year, the 301, Macaulay Bishop from Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. Mate, just to think, you and I both came from very humble beginnings. You started your karting journey at Rye House Kart Raceway and I started my commentary journey. And here we are in Mariembourg. I mean, how's things been, mate? It's been a long time since we've really had a chance to catch up.
I mean, yeah, obviously we both started at the same place and yeah, look where we are now. We've made it a long way and we ain't stopping, are we? So it's good. I've been having some good results over the last couple of years and I keep pushing for more every race I do and yeah, I don't stop.
What's one of the things you love about racing here at Mariembourg? Because you've got fast corners, technical corners, and then you've got, you know, you've got that little bit of everything here.
Yeah, it's a real mix. Got some really fast corners and then obviously some really slow corners, so it's like kind of polar opposites at some points of the track. But yeah, no, it's really fun, it's nice and flowing. Obviously compared to the UK, it's a lot faster, a lot more high grip as well. So you've got like tyre management and position and stuff like that. So it's a bit different to the UK, but I'm adapted well, so we'll go again tomorrow, I think.
Brilliant, Macaulay. Thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend, mate.
Thank you.
Pole position on Sunday in seniors this time would go to the Netherlands. Boris Verhaag, also one of the Bouvin Power Massive. The first race would get underway with the plume of smoke hitting the air here at Mariembourg, and it was all for themselves as we headed into turns 1, 2 and 3 for the first time. Thijs van Wijk would take the lead as Vince van der Halle tried to make a comeback through the field. And also Sverre Ubben crossed the line. Ubben would take the win early doors on Sunday. The pre-final would get underway with an all Bouvin Power front row. Some great overtaking, some great prowess, including GKS's Sverre Ubben, who would definitely firmly showcase that he was not one to trifle with. But at the end of the race, it was the 372 of Vince van der Halle that would take the win on this particular occasion. Once again, for the next race, for the final, well, Macaulay Bishop decided, you know what, I've got to try and do something and make something of this. But it was not going to be easy. Van Wijk would definitely find himself in a Bouvin Power sandwich, but then would find himself overtaken by Boris Verhaag, with Van Wijk heading down into P3. Then it would be 4, as Bishop would go past his teammates at turn 3. Ubben would fight back, trying to get his way through up the top end of the order. But at the end of the race, it was the 372 of Vince van der Halle that would take the win on this particular occasion.
Now, I've known this young man for a very, very long time, new recruit at SP Motorsport. Good to see you, Vic Van Kampen. How are things, buddy?
Good, yeah. Now I'm in the team SP from Standpex. So things are differently now. Now I'm in a bigger team than before. So I'm going to show everything I have.
What's the difference between being with a team such as SP rather than running with your dad back in the Mini in the junior days?
You got a lot more data, like how to get in the lines of the track, how to take them, how much speed you need, the setups, and a lot more folks to enjoy.
Well, after the dust had settled from Senior Rotax, it was Macaulay Bishop ahead of Vince van der Halle and Matthews, Van Wyck that would round out your top 3. Very competitive all weekend long, as they would be hitting the podium here for the last time at Mariembourg. Well, that's it for our onboard by WFR TV coverage of round 2 of BNL, as the series takes just over a 2-month break, as we will head to the home of champions between the 19th and the 21st of June. Until then, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.